The iPad Pro from 2020 is a revolutionary device, and since its release 4 months ago, I've talked about it a lot here on the channel because I'm straight up infatuated with it. And this iPad, like this computer, never ever leaves my side. So how has it held up over the last 4 months? And is this in the running for the best computer of 2020? Let's find out. Take that serious. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. First up, the things I like, especially now that, no kidding, 90% of all of the work I do to manage both my personal life and my entire online presence is done on an iPad, and that thing is the ease of use. Look, there are really two things that make the iPad what it is. The first one is they're just darn easy to use. The iPad Pro, and more specifically the 2020 11-inch version that I have, is absolutely one of the easiest computers I've ever seen to use. It's got this gigantic 11-inch Retina display with the gorgeous, I love the design aesthetic here. And what helps it make it even better are, look at how small it's kind of out of focus. Look at how small and sleek these bezels are compared to previous generations. If you want to interact with an app or change a setting, chances are you just tap on it, do what you need to do, and you get access to it like that. How simple is that? There are no drivers, there's minimal fiddling around with menu settings, you just tap and go. Plus, all of the apps, especially the ones that I use, are very intuitively laid out. And while you can't customize the display as much as I'd like, unfortunately even iPad OS doesn't really address this. The way that it is laid out, it makes it very easy to pick up if you've never used an iPad before. And frankly, this intuitive design is why when I brought on my first addition to the staff here, I still can't believe it. Crazy exciting times. I can't believe we hired somebody. Sorry. When I brought somebody on, we needed to really decide what kind of device that we were going to use as a team, and I couldn't think of anything better for us to use than another iPad to go with mine. So we use iPads now to coordinate the entirety of this enterprise. The second part, though, of what makes the iPad Pro great 4 months later is the versatility, and that's really it. The 2020 iPad Pro can do basically everything, and it does it in this very small and very affordable package. This model starts off at $799, and that gets you the 11-inch model with 128 gigabytes of storage, which for everything you get, that's pretty amazing. Do you want a touchscreen drawing device? Boom, get the pencil, and you'll be designing in no time. Well, I won't be because I'm awful at designing anything, but somebody that's more artistically inclined could absolutely just pick up the pencil and start going. Do you need a word processing tool for writing out long emails, scripts, or papers? Boom. You can get any of the vast number of available keyboards and you have a legit typing tool. My preference continues to be the Magic Keyboard, but we'll dive more into that specific accessory in a little bit. Heck, do you need a second screen or even a touch screen for your Mac and you don't want to buy something else? You already have an iPad, so you don't need to buy something else. Sidecar the Mac to the iPad and you have functionality for days, weeks even. I could actually keep going on and on like this, but I won't. I'm not gonna pad out the video like this, but it's amazingly versatile. Honestly, I can't think of another device on the market today that can do what the iPad can. All the Android tablets, I'm sure they're fine as far as specs go, but they don't integrate like the iPad does with other devices. I'm also sure that the Windows touchscreen laptops are also fantastic devices that have more spec power under the hood with dedicated graphics card and the like, but they're big, they're heavy, some of them are very expensive, and you just can't replace a small notebook. Literally, this takes up the place of a small notebook. Adding to that versatility is a few small additions that you might not notice until you really need them. The USB-C port and the smart connector on the back. Hoo boy! These two additions take something that's really good, like for example, the non-pro iPad, and these two just kick it up to a whole other level. You can use so many accessories with the iPad that you could take it from just this little tablet that's great and it lets you watch all sorts of content, like here on the Everyday Dad. You use your iPad to watch the content here. But there you can take it and add on until it's basically a desktop level computing experience with mouse, keyboard, external display, monitors, everything. Okay, fairness for fairness sake, sure, that external monitor will be in a 4:3 aspect ratio, but the fact alone that it can do this is wild. A few notable accessories that are my favorite for the iPad Pro. The Apple Magic Keyboard, not the Magic Keyboard that comes with your iMac, but the iPad Magic Keyboard. I love this thing so darn much. You've seen me make all sorts of videos about it over the past couple of months, so I'm not gonna go too far in depth right now. I mean, it really changes what the iPad can be. Straight up, this may not replace your laptop or desktop for everything. Remember, I still have to use a more traditional computer for video and photo editing, but it gets really close. There are other keyboard cases out there and they're perfectly fine. The new Logitech comes to mind. The Smart Folio from Apple also exists for half of the cost, but the Magic Keyboard is the standard with which I judge all others. Trackpad, great keyboard, additional USB-C port for charging. Mwah! I couldn't get the same level of work done that I do now without the Magic Keyboard for the iPad. It's truly magical. That felt good. I've been waiting to do that one. Another thing I've enjoyed isn't really a specific accessory, but the much improved keyboard and mouse support makes using the new iPad OS much better than previous iterations. I think I mentioned this. I think in every single iPad video I keep mentioning this, but I will continue to do so because I like to support good decisions. The updated mouse cursor it's just like this little dot, and it's much better than that original iPad OS, like gigantic circle thing. You'd think it's such an odd shaped cursor that you can't change to be more like a traditional arrow. You'd think that would be frustrating to use, especially one that kind of does some of the work for you. Like it kind of has a mind of its own. But the more I use it, the harder it is to go back to an old school cursor design. I love it. I love it. I won't bore you again. Seriously, this might be the 7th time I've talked about it. But needless to say, 4 months later, I still really enjoy using a traditional mouse with this iPad because of these changes. Plus, the battery life is crazy good. I can get a full day of use and still have half the battery left. Less so when I use the Magic Keyboard because these backlit keys don't power themselves, but it'll still last a whole day. And one of the neat features of Apple Silicon that I'm really looking forward to see it update in their Macs is if you just leave the iPad alone for extended periods of time. I just leave it here. Let's say I just leave it here. The battery lasts pretty much until I come back. I'll leave it on my desk for long periods of time and then come back to almost no battery missing. That's the definition of versatility. We keep saying versatility is a great thing, and it is, but it can't really stand up on its own without power. And over the past 4 months, I've been really impressed with not only the amount of things the iPad can do, but the amount of things the iPad can do quickly, efficiently, and powerfully. Whether it's a quick video edit, stream, photo edit, or something similar, I've never ever been held back by the power on display here. Seriously, if we are looking at straight up raw power, the iPad Pro renders 4K video faster than the iMac Pro does. That's in H.264 too. Long rambling discussion about video compression aside, H.264 is kind of a pain for computers to render, with many potential bottlenecks existing in that process. The iPad has the power to laugh at that and render at way faster than real time. Not just rendering though, the iPad Pro can handle H.265, a very hard file for computers to handle. It can handle H.265 6K footage from a Netflix approved hybrid camera like the Lumix S1H without breaking a sweat. That's impressive. I'm not really sure that my current video editing rig could handle those files as easily. They could, but it would probably take some workarounds or transcoding. So if you wondered what kind of horsepower was under the hood here, it's enough. Doing simple daily tasks like writing, drawing, emailing, spreadsheeting, etc., you'll never even come close to taxing the Apple Silicon chip inside of this thing. But what's really cool, and something that power gets you, and a feature that I use all of the time now, is the dual screen feature, so you can have 2 apps open at the same time, both barely taxing that almost unlimited power. This is such a great feature because let me tell you, let's take a step behind the curtain of the everyday dad. The last thing you want to do is reply to emails asking about your availability without also having your calendar up. I'm not saying that I've double booked myself several times now during my working from home duration, but I'm getting really good at listening to 2 phone calls at the same time. Seriously, have your calendar available when you are responding to emails, and this feature lets you do both really easy. The next thing I really like is how well iPad Pros collaborate with each other. Sure, that's not necessarily something that's exclusive to the iPad Pro from 2020. The iPhone, the MacBooks, and the other Apple devices can all use the same infrastructure to share the same kinds of information, but it's different on the iPad. Like the iPad, being that merging of the 2 worlds, really gets you a lot more. And there are a few key applications that I've found over the past few months that make this even better. Having the ability to quickly add that new teammate to my calendar with just a tap of a button, that's insane. You can share that via email, text message, copy the link, just get them in there so they can either view or manage the team's calendar That's awesome. Apple Notes, while this is a very basic typing, drawing, list making app, it's much like the Apple Calendar, and it's very easy to share folders with team members and even use these to track meetings minutes. It's not the best, and we are working on transitioning over into another app, more in a second, but it's quick, intuitive, it's just darn easy. And that's really, are you hearing me? Like, that's really the overarching theme of the iPad Pro from 2020. It's quick, it's intuitive, and it's just darn easy to use. The big app that we are slowly transitioning to is Notion, and I know every single YouTuber out there has to talk about this app at some point. This video is not sponsored by Notion, and I'm gonna keep this brief. I've spent the last few weeks trying to grasp this app. I've watched other videos on it, I've read articles about it, and I was getting ready to throw in the towel and just get rid of it because everybody wants to make these hyper, yes, I typed hyper in all caps in the script, hyper in-depth databases that it seems like you need a full-time person working on them, and that's the antithesis for what I'm going for. But in the last couple of days, it's actually started to click with me, and I have created a few personalized databases that let me track video ideas, statuses of invoice, and other content ideas with just a few different workspaces that all kind of like relate to each other. This app is incredibly powerful and deep, and it deserves its own video. Maybe I'll make a video on Notion when I figured out how I want it to work, but this video isn't about Notion. Back to the actual iPad. We've talked so far about how it's held up with ease of use, versatility, power, accessory, apps, the whole gamut. But we haven't actually touched on the best part. And this is the best part of the iPad Pro from 2020. It's just fun to use. I know, Gary, you're all grown up in business first now, but I just want stuff that's fun to use. I don't like it when I have to endure frustration to get my tech to work the way I want. In the last 4 months, I haven't stopped having fun finding new things and ways to use the iPad. It seems like each and every day, there's something new that I've either found or Apple's updated. I mean, look, there's a whole bunch more coming on the horizon with iPadOS 14. And as the Mac and iPad lines kind of like that operating system merge a little bit, when both are gonna be on the same hardware, I'm beyond excited to check that out. So bottom line of this entire video, 4 months later, I still love the iPad Pro 2020. This device is probably the best purchase I've made so far this year, and it's easily paid for itself many times over in the efficiencies that I've gained, the new tools I've learned, and the cool devices that I get to try out now. I highly recommend it. And if you saw this video, you got to the end and you're like, Gary, all right, I'm all in and I need to buy one of these. Here's a couple of videos with some awesome accessories, 2 versions that you can check out, and you should probably check out both, that will get you on your way to an even better time. And they'll both be right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.